I started 2020 off by sitting on 16-hour flights, arriving caffeinated and inspired in other parts of the world. I thought the only way to connect to a place, to people, to a culture, was to physically be there, and I never really thought about how quickly all of that could change. And then it did. So after using most of my brain cells to binge watch Tiger King, I used whatever I had left to pick up a Spanish workbook that had been sitting on the shelf for about 4 years. And then I spent the rest of 2020 connecting to the world in a different way, through language, at home, on the couch, 2,000 miles away from any international borders. Even though it feels like so much was taken away in 2020, at the same time I feel like I gained so much. Like, I don't know if I would have come back to language learning if I hadn't needed such an escape from everything that was happening in the world. You know, I know nothing's going to change at midnight on January 1st, 2021, but what has brought me joy this year has been this little slice of the language learning world. So I'm coming into the new year with new goals for each language and new motivation to keep going while the world keeps doing its thing. So here are my language learning goals for 2021 and how I'm planning for a year that can't be planned for.
Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So for 2021, I have language learning goals in 4 different languages, 5 if you include English, which is my native language. And because 2020 was a little bit, I am doing my best when I make these language learning goals for 2021 to include a lot of that uncertainty that is bound to come with the year. So to do that, first, I made a list of everything else I enjoy doing outside of language learning. Before I even started to make my language learning goals, I wanted to make sure that I could include all of these other things that I love to do in my life, because it's not really realistic to be like, I'm going to be fluent in 19 languages. If I write those goals down and I come back to here and I go, okay, but you also wanted to sleep, that's not really going to be realistic for the goals that I'm making. So once I make a list of all of the activities that I want to make sure I'm including in 2021, I made sort of a love letter to each one, you know, like why I enjoy doing it, the joys that I get from each one. So like meditation brings me a sense of stillness and a sense of being able to take on the day. And if I don't take the time to do them, then I lose out on the sense of feeling great after finishing a good book. So I want to do this first, like all of the other activities I enjoy outside of language learning, so that when I do make my goals,
It is so hard to let go of these things in favor of unrealistic language learning goals.
So this was just a reminder to myself of all of the other things that I need to include to make me feel balanced. And then for each one, I also wrote an ideal time that I would want to spend on it every week, and then the minimum time that I would need for each activity to make me feel whole. So like for meditation, I would love to do this 10 minutes a day, every day, but in reality, 3 times a week is probably okay for me. So once I have this whole complete picture of what I want my life to feel like, the activities I want to include, I can start to make language learning goals that fit very nicely within all of these other activities that I love and that bring me joy, just like language learning. The other thing that I'm doing to kind of account for the uncertainty that this year is going to bring is to only plan in quarters. I use the My Next 90 Day Planner. I think this is my 3rd one, and it's really just helped me chunk out the year in 3-month intervals. And I think it's a lot easier to visualize your goals in a 3-month time span rather than a year. Because in 2020, if you would have asked someone in January what they thought they were going to be doing this year, no one was right. No one was right. So I think it's a lot easier to foresee 3 months in the future rather than an entire year at once. So now that I have an idea of all of the other things that I want to include in these next 3 months and over the course of the year, I can start making concrete language learning goals. So first up is Spanish. So Spanish is where everything started this year. So it's also going to be my focus language for 2021. So right now I'm sitting at a B1-ish.
Quick note here about language levels, which is super oversimplified, so linguists don't come for me, but this is a really common way for people to measure how proficient they are in a language, where A0 is the most basic and C2 is almost the equivalent of a really well-educated native speaker. So A0 to A2 is considered beginner, with B1 and B2 intermediate, and C1 and C2 advanced.
So right now I'm sitting at a B1-ish, like I can have everyday conversations for about an hour, but I do need to rework some of the sentences that I want to say. So I'm not 100% confident in all of the tenses yet, but I can get around it. I can figure out other vocabulary. And I can understand podcasts and YouTube, but for the first 10 minutes, I'm at like 110% like mental capacity. So I can understand it all, but it's like, I'm like really there, you know? And so this only lasts for like 10 minutes or so. And then after that, it'll go down to like 80% understanding with a more relaxed listening. So my year goal for each language is going to be purposely vague because it's really hard to plan a whole year at a time. But if I'm able to take a step back and reassess after every 3 months, then I can make a lot more realistic goals moving forward. So my year goal for Spanish is roughly to be about a C1. To me, this means that I'm able to have a full hour-long conversation without rewording half of the things I'm gonna say. I can have a conversation about almost every topic. I don't feel like I need to be having like conversations about literature or anything like that at the end of the year, but being able to talk about the things I talk about in English. That is my goal for 2021 for Spanish. So my 3-month goals. So I want to be more confident in like the tenses and the vocab that I do know now, because if I am able to really harness those 3,000 words or whatever it is, then I can have really good conversations with a lot of people. I just have to have a much better grasp of the words and the vocab that I already know now. And because I have no idea what this year is going to look like, I'm focusing more on habits than actual specific, like I know 5,000 words or whatever. So the habits I'm going to include for Spanish this year are continuing to have 1 to 2 lessons per week, studying an hour a day, to finish Babbel before my subscription runs out, rewriting all of my Instagram captions in Spanish. So when I was doing this a few months ago, I felt like I was able to incorporate a lot more of what I would actually say in everyday conversation. On Saturday or Sunday, to watch a 1-hour documentary, to consume more YouTube in Spanish in my free time, and to listen to podcasts and actually go through the transcriptions. All right, and next up is Tagalog. So I am comfortably at an A0 for Tagalog. I know a lot of random vocabulary from drops, and I can make about 2 different kinds of sentence structures, but beyond that, I really can't do very much. So for my year-long goal for Tagalog, I want to be at about an A2. So for me, that means having simple conversations about where are you from, where do you live, what do you like to do. So my 3-month goals are to be able to read paragraph passages, which like don't have to be very complicated, just reading paragraphs. I did this with Spanish and my brain exploded, but I did it. So that is my goal for 3 months, and to be able to have very direct conversations like, do you like cheese? Yes, I do like cheese. And to get there, my habits are going to be 1 hour of textbook study every Thursday, 30 minutes of drops or Anki or consuming Tagalog content Monday and Wednesday, and 30 hours of listening over the next 3 months, which is only about 2.5 hours a week. And then eventually within those 3 months to find a tutor, and then maybe do that every other week. All right, so next up is Armenian. So I can read and write in Armenian, which was my last 3-month goal. So yay, I made that one. I took a class in college in Armenian, and we were reading and writing on the 2nd day. And I still am just like so shooketh that we were able to learn things that quickly. Despite taking that class though, I really didn't retain very much because it was so long ago. So I can conjugate present tense and I know some basic salutations, but beyond that, I don't really know very much. So my year-long goal for Armenian is to again be about an A2. So I want to be reading short stories, like short, simple stories, nothing too fancy, and having simple conversations just like in Tagalog. So my 3-month goals are to be able to read and write short sentences, like I like to go to the movies. I also want to rely less on the Latinization of the words, so although I can read and write in Armenian, my eyes still directly go to the Latin words for me to really understand it, and I want to rely less on that. So to get me there, my habits are going to be 1 hour of textbook study every Tuesday, using the textbook that I used 10 years ago, because I already had it. In the next 3 months, I also want to find a tutor or start a class. 30 minutes of Iolingo flashcards, general Armenian content on Friday and Saturday, and 30 hours of listening over the next 3 months. All right, so next up is Polish. So Polish is the fourth language in terms of my priority list, meaning it's not going to make its way into the first 3 months of the year. But over the course of the year, I want to be able to differentiate sounds and listen to a lot of Polish content. So I'm hoping by like the fallish, I can incorporate podcasts and the YouTube series Easy Polish more into my everyday life, which means there are no habits or goals for the first quarter, but stay tuned. And last up is English. So some people might not count this as necessarily part of my language learning goals, but I have found that the more confident I am in my concise writing and reading in English, the easier it is to pick up on a foreign language really quickly. Because I don't have all of those interjections and filler words in other languages, being really clear and concise is kind of the only option I have. And so when I'm able to do this in English, it translates really, really well into the other languages. So my year-long goals for English are to read 25 books and to find writing opportunities that allow me to write in a meaningful and concise and powerful way. All right, and there you have it, my language learning goals for 2021 and how I'm planning for a year that is sure to bring us some unexpected surprises. Let me know what your language learning goals are in the comments below and how you're planning for this year. If you want to follow along on my language learning progress, make sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell so you never miss out. And I can't wait to give you guys updates as the year goes on.